I made $32,000 using this one strategy, and I'm going to give you the full breakdown. So if you look here at my chart, this is Zim Integrated Shipping. It's a shipping company that had just been absolutely running rampant throughout COVID, and at some point it was going to turn down as shipping costs turned down. That was something that played into my identification of it, and this was in mid-2022. So if you notice here, there's a couple of things going on. Number one, we have what's called head and shoulders pattern. So how does it get that name? That's probably what you're asking me. And I just drew it for you right there. You have a head, and here's your two eyes and your mouth, and you have your shoulders. And what typically happens after you see a head and shoulders pattern? Well, you start to get this big decline. It isn't necessarily immediate. It's not immediate just like this, but that decline can last for quite some time, and that was the foreshadowing. Now, you may also be asking, well, it's easy to say now in retrospect, how do you identify it in real time? Well, in real time, it's pretty simple. You see a stock that is starting to run up in price. It runs into a level that it can't break through and falls back down a touch. Then it explodes. And when it gets to this point and it starts to flutter down, you're saying, all right, I see the left side of a shoulder happening. I see a head that already formed because it hit that peak and it fell back down in price. Now, what am I looking for next? I'm looking for something that breaks this level. Let me actually draw it in a different color for you. I'll redo this entire thing. Here's your one side of the shoulder. Here's your head. And what you're looking for now is the stock price to fall and rebound to this same level right here. So it came down, rebounded back, boom, there's the second side of your shoulder. Then I knew I had something. It's not that I entered back in here, but I knew that I had something going forward. So that's when I put it on a watch list. I put it on a tight watch list and I just paid attention to it and said, all right, when I get things to set up, when I get my volume coming into it, when I get these stochastic, because notice here, we weren't in the sweet spot yet. I had to wait until I got these engulfing candlesticks to break down and get me into that sweet spot, and that's where I entered the trade. So if you notice here, the trade was entered right in here. I had a couple of things going for me. One, I had volume. That was something that I was really happy to have. We can actually pull this up and see where that was happening. So you can see on my right side of my screen, the whiskers correspond. I broke down very nicely here. So I had selling volume that was coming into the stock. Number two, I was a little bit worried. I'm not going to lie, because I was running into this 100-day moving average, but more on the 100-day moving average in a few minutes. So I had a really nice engulfing, being in the sweet spot with volume. Okay, I'm in my trade. I actually entered with a 20% position. So boom, we are in the position. We're in it. Now comes the easy part. You just wait and see what happens. Things did get a little bit dicey with Zim, but we'll get to that. So let's go back to the long-term chart, knowing that we're fighting moving averages. As this thing progressed, what did I do? You trust the trend. The trend is your friend. You've heard me say it in so many different videos. If you trust your trend, you're going to do very well at trading. And you started to just get this nice movement down. And as the trend moves down, what happens to the stock price? Well, the stock price continues to fall. Now, looking back, I had a lot of resistance to fight in here, a lot of support levels to fight. So meaning when the stock price would come down, it would rebound. Even here, you kind of notice that it struggled there for a couple of days. Yes, it came down to that level with nice engulfing candlesticks, but it kind of stalled out there. Look, it even pulled back up again. So that level I knew was going to be a very, very tough area to fight, but we were able to fight it. Now, here's where the experience came in. The experience came in, and let's pull up the other chart. The experience came in when I got this reversal that happened. I got a reversal, and in most cases, and I teach this often, but this is the experience that I had. In most cases, as soon as something pops over back into the sweet spot and reverses, I exit. I do it 99.9% of the time. But with this one, we talked about the 100-day moving average. I knew that this thing was so incredibly weak going into the 100-day moving average, because look at the volume. The volume was just so up and down, and it was just completely erratic. I knew that at some point the volume was going to break down like it did. Again, that's just experience. People get the computer trades and funds, they get bored. When they can't break through something, they're going to the next stock. You're going to find a company that's going to break through the 100. And I knew this was a time where I just had to wait. I had to wait this thing out. And look what happened. It had that really unfortunate rebound for me. I was not very happy. I was down a couple of dollars because remember, I bought in here. So I had, all I was doing with this, I was just playing with gains. If I would have exited here, I would have just been flat. No money made, no money lost. But I was playing with gains, so I was taking a little bit more risk based on the experience that I had. Following that, I was very happy to see these nice engulfing candles. Then we were off to the races. This is where the trade got really exciting. This is where, if you have a full-time job, you can make trades like this because they can last for such a long period of time. And the reason I'm going back to 2022 and showing you this trade is I want to show you that it was possible. So this trade was entered in April of 2022, and I was not exiting until February of 2023. This is just a few years ago. You can find these trades. I've done them multiple times. They are still out there. The tough part is they're few and far between. So when you identify them, you have to catch them and capitalize, but it's very simple to capitalize. Outside of that little hiccup, you're not going to frequently see that. You just kind of stick with it. And as long as you're below this 32% line, remember, you're asking, why is that 32% line significant? Remember, the 32% line and the 80% line, this is where we make the most money. This is where coming through, we give ourselves the highest probability to make money, that the trend is not going to turn on us. After that point, we want to get into the, when we're shorting, oversold area. Because when we're oversold, the stochastic just goes sideways, the trend goes sideways, and what happens to the stock price? It just goes lower and lower and lower. So we entered this thing at $67.59. Now, we just let it coast. We let it coast. And this thing came all the way down, all the way down. Now you're probably asking, okay, this thing ran for such a long time. Yes, you had that little hiccup, but it ran for such a long time. Where do you exit? What do you exactly do? And why did you exit here knowing that this thing went over the 32% line? And why didn't you exit here? What was the difference? Well, that's a great question. The difference was I was getting much better volume. Remember back in here, we were getting volume that was up and down and up and down and up and down. Over here, it was a lot more of consistent volume. I was worried that we were going to run into something that we wouldn't be able to break out of. So when this thing kind of started creeping and creeping, and these days right here, and these days right here, I actually held it and I didn't exit until around here. I realized that there was this consolidation point. It was right here. That was actually created by this really, really heavy line of support resistance. And if you notice what happened in the subsequent weeks and months, you were stuck in that channel. You couldn't break out of it. I don't even need to zoom the chart out any further. You were just stuck in this channel. And that's what gave me that identifying point to sell right there. So the exit point was $22.58. As you guys can see, that is a 66% gain. But I want to show you that you can stick in a stock for a very, very long time. There's many cases that I've been in a stock for 12 months. This will happen, and your trend just goes sideways for such a long time. You can pull up something like AMD. I want to show you another example. Something like AMD. You can be in something for such a long period of time. December of 2021 through July. That's 7-8 months. You can go to Costco. I just want to show everybody it is possible. Here's one with Costco. April of 2021, not exiting until January of 2022. Long-term trades can make you a lot of money and they're relatively stress-free. So trading can be a very, very lonely road. There's not a lot of people to talk to, or the people that are there to talk to are probably not the best people. Guys, I had a mentor going through all of this. I could not have done it without him. Let me be the mentor to you. My Patreon right now is $25. There's less than 100 spots available. $25 a month. If you're in now, you're in at that price for life. Come and join us. So if you're ready to take that next step, click right here. Go watch the next one.